Alright everyone, it's August 29th, 2017. My lesson today is Rebuking Eden. In the news right now, people are talking about, and online about, Joel Osteen just keeping his church door locked when he can use the church to really benefit all the people who are suffering right now in this area, and now we've got smaller churches trying to help in that way, but apparently he is praying. I'm not sure why he would choose to pray when he can help the people, because you see, when people are praying for help, it's because there's no help. But if you can help, then why not? Like, maybe, okay, you don't want them to mess up your sanctuary, you can put them someplace else in the building. There's lots of rooms and hallways and so on in the basement and so on that's well set up and well used already by the church that they can stay at. So it's not going to interfere with the sanctuary part for your Sunday morning service. But that's how he feels about it. It just seems to me, though, that people will more now get angry at Christianity and the Bible and God and so on, because if people are being told by his preaching that the church represents Jesus, the church is the body of Christ, and if Christ says, I am the door, then he means you can enter through, that the door is open. Well, the church building itself would then also be a representation of the body of Christ. So if the church door is closed at a time when people need help in a disaster, not just regularly coming up on any regular day trying to get in the church, but when there's a disaster, if they find the church doors physically locked when they need it most, it cannot save their body, then how are they going to equate that with salvation from God? See, they're not going to want your God. They're not going to want your religion, because it has shown to not save them when they really needed it. So how can you tell them about some spiritual salvation when their physical salvation is evident right here? They need physical salvation. So it's really sad that these things continue to happen in the world. But I'm looking here at Rebuking Eden. I'm wondering, still dealing with the whole Adam and Eve Garden of Eden story that I've been looking into from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 5, and I'm wondering, how did Moses or anyone find out exactly how old Adam was? Because we've been told, as when I was growing up and books I read when I was a child, even up until now, that they say that God told Moses all the things to write, and he wrote the Torah from Genesis to Deuteronomy. But I've been wondering about some of this stuff, just trying to question and search and dig through and see what sense the stuff makes. And so I'm wondering, if you search on who wrote Genesis, how do we know Moses wrote Genesis and so on, you're going to find all kinds of thoughts out there. But really, how would Moses have found out exactly how old Adam was? And you'll more get a quicker understanding of where I'm coming from with that kind of question if you've heard my other videos dealing with writing and Adam and writing and stuff like that. But if you tell me, you tell me Adam did not write, and I'm saying Adam must have written in his lifetime. Must have. Because if Sumer was set up and up and running in the time when Adam was still alive, how come we don't hear Adam being connected with Sumer? What reason would there be for Adam to be the first man and Sumer has its own Eden story, but they never connect with Adam? How can you be Sumer and talk authoritatively about Eden, but you never show the man Adam as being in Sumer and have his records there when you were writing in Sumer? Why doesn't Adam have any prominent place as a real life figure in Sumer? So you say to me, Adam did not write and he did not read, because writing and all that came later on. But does that make any sense? When you think that Adam could not write, could not read, but he could count? Does that make sense to you? If you were given the task to name all kinds of animals in a certain area of a forest, and it's your job to do that, would you have any reason to count them while you are naming them? Would you take note of how many there were? Of how many of this and that kind? If he's given the job to name them, we know he can speak. We know he can think and intellectualize enough to get that job done. So why does that kind of mind and his ability to speak and to form words and create new words that were never there before, because he's got to name them with names they never had before, why would the man not be able to read and also count? And why not write? You're going to wonder if Adam really could count or not by the time I get to the end of this. It's just going to be so simple that some of the things that we've been taught is just really a cover-up. Something is missing. I've been telling you from the very first video dealing with Adam and Eden and so on. Something is fishy here. It's not because everything could not be written or the Bible would be too big. That's not it. Because even one extra page or two extra pages could be added to the Bible that wouldn't make a big difference in terms of its size, its weight, and how much longer it will take you to read the Bible. Just one or two more pages could have been added to talk about Adam, the first man, but you got wicked men in the Bible getting a whole page devoted to them, sometimes a whole chapter or two. But the only man to have met the Creator in a unique kind of way, like no one else ever met with him and dealt with him, and the first man as well to have done so. Because you tell me, and I read it too, Moses on Mount Sinai and so on, but Adam met him in a way that Moses doesn't even claim. And Adam was still the first man to have met with the Creator. And Eve the first woman. And we have so little of that. But we just have to believe. So Adam couldn't read, Adam couldn't write, but he could count, it seems. No one else was alive to witness Adam's day one, meaning his first day alive. So how would he look back after hundreds of years, when people started counting, to figure out when he was born to count his age? Because we now today know Adam's age. Notice here in Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1 it says, "This is the book of the generations of Adam, in the day that Elohim created man. In the likeness of Elohim made he him." The first thing this verse lets me think is that books were common at the time when this was written, because it just casually says this is the book of the generation, as if it was normal to write down and make note of generations. It also talks about the generations of Adam as though they want you to clearly be able to tell that people were making note of who lived, who came out of Adam, who was connected to him, and how old, because people were counting. The book of the generations, or of the counting and logging of Adam's people. Somebody was counting from day one. But you tell me Adam could not read and could not write because writing wasn't invented until time of Sumer, and so on. And so we see that it seems that Adam was doing some counting somewhere along the line, more than once. He was counting from the start, and the Most High, from almost the start, gave him intelligent things to do, name these animals, and brought all these animals to him to name him and so on. So he would have also been very knowledgeable as a new human who never had the chance to learn from another human who was dealing with animals, but he would have known how to care for the animals long enough to name them. And so we see him counting here. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. So he was counting there. He kept a check of it, and he knew that he had lived for 130 years when the very concept of years was not yet known. If you go by the regular, normal, silly way of thinking. People didn't just grow as time went on from what they knew. That's not just how it went. They did that, but they came preloaded with information from the start. Adam was built and made with a core set of knowledge about the world he was living in order to begin to live in the world. That's why he could have been brought the animals to name them from the start, because he had the ability to name them, to count them, to speak to them, to speak about them, and to formulate words and shift around letters and so on to get that job done from the start. Adam came preloaded with that. Preloaded with language, with thought, with letters that can form words, and knew how to make sentences. How is he going to communicate with the Creator and be a dumb person, an idiot? The man could handle language, so he was talking to the Creator, and the Creator was talking with him as well and telling him, look, this is what you can eat, this is what you can eat, don't eat that, blah, blah, blah. Because if the Creator is doing that, obviously the Creator knows he can understand what he's being told. So the Creator is not talking to an idiot, but talking to an intelligent, mighty man that the Creator made in his wise, wisdom-filled, Torah knowledge image. The image of God is not just a clean blank slate. It's bad enough to make this whole earth and everything we see. So it's filled with wisdom, all kinds of knowledge. So Adam would have had enough of that to get started. And then the rest of the things that mankind has learned over time now from experiences and trial and error and making things and so on and getting better at things, yeah, they continue to learn and improve. But Adam would have known stuff from the start, including letters, language, ability to think, formulate words, count, read, write, and so on. Because how would Sumer have even known where Adam was and what he was doing if he never told them? And how would Moses eventually have written it down if he didn't tell people and write it down and count and keep log of all this information? In verse 5, from Genesis 5, And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. See that? Verse 4 says, and he begat Seth and 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So he knew how to run a family. Nothing there shown as any signs of struggles. The man knew. Him and Eve didn't have struggles trying to figure out, family, what do we do? Okay, I just push out this baby out of my belly. Does he just lay there on the ground? They knew what to do. They were made intelligent, brilliant, and so on. And the counting goes on. And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. Seth lived after, whereas and it goes on with a lot of counting. What this is telling you is that in the very early chapters of Genesis, counting was already going on. In fact, the very first chapter, before writing was set up came about at Sumer or in Mesopotamia or wherever they want to say, numbering and counting was already done as the Creator did this and that and day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on. Run over now to Jonah chapter 4, verse 1 to 5. I'll read this part quickly. But it displeased Jonah, you know the whole Jonah and Nineveh stuff, exceedingly, and he was very angry. And he prayed unto the Most High, and said, I pray thee, O Most High, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country? Therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that thou art a gracious power, and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth thee of the evil. Therefore now, O Most High, take, I beseech thee, my life from me. For it is better for me to die than to live. Then said the Most High, Dost thou well to be angry? So Jonah went out of the city, and sat on the east side of the city. So the Most High quieted him now with that, and he sat on the east side of the city, and there made him a booth, and sat under it in the shadow, till he might see what would become of the city. You see, what's happening here is that the Most High is on the move. This is not like what you call like a move of God, and he's dealing with Nineveh. Jonah wants to see the move of God. See what the Most High is doing, how all this thing works out. He wants, you look at the Hebrew word there, ra'ah, he wants to inspect carefully, like he built a booth to sit there because he's staying a while. He wants to, it's like when you're doing some inspection of something, you want to find this thing out. He wants to know the nit and the grit. He wants to be able to get this thing in completion. He built a booth and he sat there and he watched the thing. Because the Most High is on the move right now with Nineveh, and he wants to be able to tell. The Most High is on the move as far as our creation is concerned for the first time in Genesis, and Adam is the first man that opens his eyes, and Adam expresses no interest in the book of Genesis or anywhere in the Torah about seeing and inspecting what the Creator is doing, as the Creator is for the first time in Adam's life and the first time in man's life. This man is witnessing the move of the Creator, and Adam does not inspect things in any way where something is left written down that we can find. Does this story of Eden seem kind of strange to you? Like it is not the fullness of the story? I don't mean like, okay, well, they left out a sentence. No, I mean like they left out a ton load of stuff. Maybe there's scrolls there that, or, pardon me for saying it, is this really the way it happened? Now you're going to say, well, I have to believe because if I believe in Torah, I must accept. But you can't say I shouldn't be wondering about it. One of the most mysterious things in Scripture is how we all came to be and so on, and what the Creator did and set up this garden and the first place man lived and so on. And the first man to deal with the Most High. Everybody in Scripture, well, that comes to my mind right now. If the Most High is dealing with them, they got some extra words to say. They got some feelings to express or something. Even if it's judgment, they're feeling it strongly. Like David getting punished by the Most High. He's got all kinds of words to say. He's praying and crying his prayers of repentance, whatever. Adam goes through witnessing the Creator walking with him and saying, eat this, eat that, and giving him whatever. You get your instructions direct from God. And Adam doesn't want to leave anything behind for us. So rebuking Eden. The dictionary, rebuke, it means an expression of sharp disapproval or criticism. So that's the sense in which, what I mean when I say rebuking Eden. I'm not saying Eden is a lie or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm considering the whole thing, right? Because I've told you many times, I'm rereading the Bible. I have to try to make a sense of this myself because I've sat from the Christian church under too many people who just didn't study enough. And in Jamaica, I can partly understand that because, it's like in Jamaica, we weren't that into the Bible the way I see the Hebrews studying it now. We weren't. Like, we didn't even have Hebrew Bibles and stuff like that. So we didn't get, So, okay, I understand that. You preach a message on the street service, and you get baptized this Sunday, and you're saved after that, they say. So they didn't give any deep consideration of certain things. So I can understand that. But past that, still too many people have taught carelessly about the Bible. So I got to dig in and study. I want to ask all the questions. And I'm reading some stuff today even about the Catholic Church. And I'm like, if you read even the Catholic Encyclopedia, you're going to notice one thing. Yeah, we bash these people a lot, the Catholic, the Pope, the Jesuits, and so on. But you notice something about these popes and the Jesuits and the whole sort of the Catholic emperors and whatever, Caesars and all them. These that formed up the Vatican system, these guys are actually brilliant. Go read the Catholic Encyclopedia. I was reading it today, and every now and then I read it because when I'm studying, I come across it. They're really brilliant. If you hear when I say brilliant, I mean with the Bible knowledge, right? No, of course we know they're lying to us about a lot of things, but a lot of stuff they tell you is really some stuff. Yeah, they're telling you is true, and they really talk in some sense authoritatively in terms of having a lot of knowledge. They'll tell you some stuff. That means what? They know the Bible very, very well. They do. They're going to lie to you about it in the end, but they know they know a lot of stuff, and they're telling you a lot of stuff all the time. And their write-ups are usually, the write-ups are brilliant. Even when they're lying to you, they make the lie sound brilliant. But you still learn a lot from reading their stuff. But the thing is that when you read a lot of their writings, you get the sense that they are sitting on more information than they are telling the world. You can't write certain things and don't know other things that people have that are unanswered questions in their minds. Because the way for you to tell certain other things, you must have gotten that from someplace else. It's funny that we got the Dead Sea Scrolls and it just happened to match Bible that was already here. And I'm not saying they didn't find certain other writings and scrolls and so on. But it's funny, this one thing, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's just so big. Why weren't there many more found of the Old Testament writings? These Hebrews have been making their scrolls for a couple thousand years. And you just find one or two, and you have to just prize that as some great possession and put it under a glass case and so on in a museum. And it just so happened that the one you find is the same one that we have for the Bible, where people are cussing and fighting over the Bible. and it doesn't clarify things anymore because it doesn't shed any extra light on the damn Bible that we got. When will the scrolls be found that makes us say, people say, aha, now we found something? Every time you find a scroll, it's the same thing. Oh, it confirms, it confirms, it confirms. You can't find something that reveals some more stuff? That tells us in very clear words who the damn hell Esau is? What Adam was doing after he was made, besides just simply naming the animals? Didn't Adam travel anywhere? He placed him in the garden. That doesn't mean he was not that he was restricted from traveling and moving around. He was international in his mind by naming all the creatures, and the creatures are international because creatures are found all over the world. So the man is already international in his mind, naming creatures, animals that have certain names based on where they are located, yet he's staying in the one spot and doing all of this. So to say to me that he's put out of the garden might not necessarily mean that he could not go out before that. It just means now he cannot live here anymore, so he's put out. He's permanently locked out of this place. Can't come and go anymore. They're going out, but you cannot get back in. Criticize means form and express a sophisticated judgment of a literary or artistic work. And listen to this. Teachers in Israel did not teach about the many mysteries and wisdom embedded in the Eden myth, as if wisdom comes only from the Torah given to Moses and the life of Abraham and the followers of the Most High who lived after the overkill of the military-styled, technologically advanced fire sword weapons of angelic Edenic expulsion of the first man and woman. Yeah? I'm trying to tell you, all the teachers, the religious ones in Israel in the ancient days, they didn't teach us about the wisdom that was expressed in Eden. We all know that whenever the Most High showed up in Scripture 21, the wisdom that was expressed in that moment, even when he's passing judgment on some wicked people, whatever, the wisdom in that moment is so strong that for thousands of years we go on still rereading the same story, the same verse or two, trying to extract something else out of it. For instance, Jacob fighting with the angel. We talk about that so much, and even in the Christian circles, they preach so much stuff about Jacob and wrestling with the angel. Books and books and books and books have been written, people expressing from different angles, whatever. There's so much locked up in it, the story. So whenever the Creator shows up, all kinds of wisdom is just embedded in the event that happened. The Hebrews would even name places based on the experiences they had with the Most High. So it wasn't just the experience that was significant to them. Even the very place where he showed up had so much significance to them that they wanted to remember this place, and they named it to show the importance that the Creator touched down right here. And he came in Eden and walked with Adam, and Adam doesn't care a damn about the Creator's footsteps and leaving anything behind to teach anybody anything about the Creator, to say A and B, C and D. This man is very strange. A poor example of a Torah teacher. Very poor. And with my feeble attempts to start to dig into teaching something about Torah, I even am teaching you more than what I learned from Adam. with my meager knowledge. And the mysteries there from the Creator and Adam never taught us. But other people who read about Adam having been made can teach so many things about Adam and come from so many different angles. Look how many lessons I've taught on Adam so far. He lived nearly 1,000 years. That's longer than a lot of people in the Bible. Certainly lived longer than Isaiah. And look how many chapters Isaiah gave us. So this Adam doesn't want to teach us things, yet Torah comes only from Moses at Sinai and others post-Eden. But the one who was in Eden, the first man made, he's not interested in teaching things. When the Creator showed in his first dealing with the man that teaching was so important that he did it first. He taught the man how to live in Eden. Showing you that teaching is very, very important because this is a world of words. By a word you live, by a word you die. You get it right, you live. You do it wrong, you die. Adam doesn't want to pass on any of that. So Adam doesn't want to, so we have to instead imagine that Torah was in Eden. Imagine that trees of Eden meant nations or spiritual principles. Imagine many things about Eden to extract things about, to extract its understanding so we can learn. We just have to imagine because he is not telling us A, B, C, D, E, so we can just learn and know things. So we got to stretch our minds. But if you look at other major events, though, in the Torah and certainly in the book of Genesis, you don't have to be guessing as much, although there's certain other things we want to know, but we don't have to guess as much for some basic information. Like we got to guess with Adam. What happened? When he left the garden, exactly where did he go? Did he turn left or right when he got out the gate? But let's say Abraham now, it's more straightforward. We can tell where Abraham went and track his movements and so on, right? So it's more straightforward. Do we have to imagine Abraham left his father's house, or can we just quickly tell from the text that he did? But with Adam, it's mysterious. A serpent came, and he wasn't even there to witness that. Just a woman dealing with the serpent and then told him, hey, why don't you eat some of this food with me? So things aren't clear with Adam. He's actually more shady than we think. Do we have to imagine that Moses went up to the Mount Sinai, or imagine that Israel went out of Egypt into the wilderness? Or can we just tell quickly that they left Egypt and entered into a wilderness close by? And you see that again is, the Most High starting to deal with Abraham. You can tell where he went, track his movements, you know just where he went, and so on. Most High's dealing with Moses, you can tell his movements as well. And he's now dealing with the nation Israel, and he's going to set them up, take them out of Egypt. You know, when they're leaving the Pharaoh behind and Egypt behind, you know just where they went. So when he's starting off things with people, you can tell where they went. Israel coming out of captivity, you tell they start to rebuild things and so on and whatever. But with Adam, his start is different from the start of these other people and the start of the nation. His start is just so mysterious. We don't really know what went on much with this guy, in the garden. We don't get to see how he lived, to say use that as a precept to show how we should be living, or to show how Israel should be living based on how Adam lived, right? We just have to go with Torah says, do this, do that, law this, law that. And that's how Israel lived. How did Adam start off after he left Eden with his wife? Well, with Eve. Someone wrote the Eden story in a way that, as far as I can see, intentionally hides the truth of how we got here and how life really started. Because it is not clear enough. Just to say that he made man, that is not clear enough. Because didn't he make all of us? No one quite knows what language Adam was speaking. You know, things like that. How can a scientist tracing the origin of man find Eden and not be interested in identifying language the first time mankind opened his mouth? You see, because that language thing is a big mystery. You can find where Adam was because you say you found Eden. You're a scientist, you're some explorer, you're an archaeologist, you're whatever you are. You found Eden. But you don't find out these things about him. Here's a rock Adam was writing on. Here's the language he was writing in and speaking and so on. You don't find all that? Why? Because the guy didn't leave anything behind or what? The biggest knowledge in the world, you are the only one to have met the Creator like that. And you don't leave anything behind? But people who had other experiences afterward when the world was more corrupt left all kinds of inscriptions and writings behind. Moses left a whole Torah. He met with the Creator on Mount Sinai. He left all kinds of writings. He gave us a whole Torah. But Adam left nothing. No trace of this man. None. Just some words on a book. And we must believe this was Adam, the first man. Let me look at Isaiah 41 and verse 20. That they may see and know and consider and understand together. See, that is why I read Jonah chapter 4 verse 1 to 5. The prophet wanted to see and understand and stuff, right? Because when the Creator is on the move, who will not be captivated and mesmerized by what is going on? Adam can't express any of that. People met into some experience with the Most High in the Old Testament, and it was just like they were so awed and so caught up in the moment and so on. And even David saying, my heart was musing while the fire burnt and so on. And David would tell you about the creation and the stars and so on. And he's considering creation of the Most High and so on. Adam doesn't tell you anything about the stars, like he wondered at this and the mysteries that came to his mind as he looked at the stars and the moon and so on. But you got Shiva, who will tell you about the sun and the moon and the movement of the moon and the sky and that it moves in like a number 8 or whatever he said, and all the stars and so on. They'll tell you that and make whole religions out of it. But Adam, he doesn't want to tell you anything about the moon. And if Adam is in our lineup, being the first man, eventually we got to trace ourselves back to him. And Israel has to deal with the moon and the sun to figure out a day and feasts and so on. And we can't learn anything from Adam about these things? And then some other mysterious guy named Enoch comes and he has all that special information that Adam apparently should have had, but somehow didn't get or didn't leave it. But Enoch has it, and all we're given is that he walked with God and he was not, for God took him. And you got to read some special book to find out his information called the Book of Enoch. But he was not, for God took him. That's it. Torah says that's all. So if you are just like only Torah and you don't believe in these extra biblical writings, then you don't have anything about Enoch then, except that he was not, for God took him. So Isaiah 41:20 goes on to say, "Know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Most High hath done this, and the Holy One of Israel hath created it." Produce your cause, saith the Most High. Bring forth your strong reason, saith the King of Jacob. You see that? When I read this Creator, now known as the God of Israel, when he's dealing with the nation he chose, he expresses himself in such clear ways where he wants interaction, he desires interaction, he initiates interaction with his people. He wants them to talk back and so on with people he's talking with. He wants them to consider, inspect things, be careful with it, look into it, go deep into it, and so on. It is, I think it's Proverbs that says, probably Proverbs, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, it's the glory of man to search it out. And Adam doesn't have that kind of glory that's his, yet David is saying, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Adam doesn't express any of the glory of a man to search and find out things and show himself great because he searched this out. Adam looks very strange, very, very odd. And sometimes I feel bad for beating up on Adam like that, but man, I'm telling you, something's really weird about this Adam given to us in this Bible that we've got. Let them bring them forth and show us what shall happen. Let them show the former things what they be, that we may consider them. You see that? Former things that we may consider. He's like, look, let these gods come and bring it forth if they can tell. Former things that we may consider them. And the most important life of the first man that ever lived. You don't get anything there from the man. And the Creator passing on anything about how the first man lived to show the example of how men should live on the earth from the first man that he made before the man fell. So the Creator can say, see, I show you proof. This is how I made the first man to live in the garden, and he lived very well in that garden until sin came in. And this is an example that you should live like this on the earth. Don't you find it strange that Adam didn't have more stories about him to tell us that, except the cryptic, almost wasteful kind of story that we read in the book of Adam, because I read the book of Adam. And it sounds so weird and strange. It's so laughable. I'm going to do a laughing stock video, a lesson on Adam, the book of Adam, one of these days. It's just, But when he set up the nation of Israel, the first way that they lived was supposed to be used as a precept. That's why he kept saying, ask your fathers of old, ask your fathers of the past, look back and see. Jeremiah 6:16, he keeps telling you why. Because the first way you were living, Israel, is how you're supposed to be. Is how you're supposed to be. Even the New Testament is having Jesus say, I think it's in the book of Revelation somewhere that says, one of the churches in Revelations, I think it says you have lost your first love. So basically saying return to that. And so the Creator did something here with Adam, set up the first man, and does not show us through the life of Adam how man should live, so that the earth has a precept of how people should live on the earth, so that we know. Then you could measure the life of Israel. Was Israel living like Adam? Because what would be the difference in the purity of how Israel was commanded to live in the commandments and how Adam was supposed to live? I'm not talking about the sacrifice and so on, because if Adam didn't sin yet, but I mean just in general, right? Like living well and so on. Why isn't there a precept describing how can the main problem on the earth is that man is not living the way they should live on the earth that is pleasing to the Creator. Yet the first man that should set an example that the Most High with his super intelligence and wisdom would be letting that man live that way to show everybody that comes after how you should live. And the Creator wrote a book for us in the Torah, in the book of Genesis, that opens the book of man on the earth without telling you how that man was really living in the garden, so you never know how he was living. No wonder we're living all kinds of ways that we're living, because we don't even know how the first man lived who got the very instructions from the Creator himself. Adam got the manual of life, and we're here saying we know how, and Adam never left those instructions. So okay, we'll just wait 1,000 or 2 years later, and we'll get some new instructions at Mount Sinai that Adam never got. Adam never was shown. Adam never showed us and taught us. But there are instructions at Sinai that show how you live on the earth. And we're going to teach the rest of the earth these ways of how to live, like Micah chapter 4, Isaiah chapter 2. So the law will go forth. So we're going to teach the whole earth this stuff. So once Israel is back now where they're living properly, then the whole earth will flow to Jerusalem. Come, let's go to the God of Jacob, and they're going to learn from us the way to live. But Adam came, and Adam was not interested in showing the world how to live. You understand why I'm rebuking Eden? And some strange genealogies in the Bible, if you want to call it from Genesis to Revelations, sometimes try to leave out Adam like he's not that big of a deal. Like, what in the world would cause that? No, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. No, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then now, with this whole Israel thing, it starts from Abraham, promises of Abraham. It's like Adam didn't contribute anything, and he's the one that got the first set of instructions direct from the Creator ever in the life of humankind. And nobody gives a damn about what instructions he actually got from the Creator and how the fuck to live on the earth. Verse 26 here from Isaiah 41. Who hath declared from the beginning that we may know, and before time that we may say he is righteous? That's what I'm talking about. From the beginning. Wouldn't the beginning of man at least be Adam? So isn't it then important to know how the beginning man lived and what he has to say? Hey, I was here first and I know firsthand what the Creator said. This is what he said, and I wrote it down right here. Where are those scrolls from Adam who was writing? Because he was reading and he was writing and he was counting and he was speaking and he was making sentences. Adam could teach you in a school setting. The Creator made a brilliant man. How can he make dumbness in the first man to let the whole rest of the human race, might I say, come out of a dumb, ignorant man? No, he made sheer brilliance and placed him in the garden. You can't have a demise of humanity if there wasn't a great man from the start. Because there would have been nothing to fall from. So why call it the fall? And if man had not yet fallen and was perfect and so on and righteous, wouldn't he have had more of the mysteries and the power of the Creator? You want to talk about your healing, people laying your hands on them, or you're praying a prayer for them and they get healed over the phone or whatever, or you're seeing and hearing mysteries and so on. How much more would Adam have been able to do all those things and more before any transgression happened where they were kicked out of the garden? So this man, Adam, is really unlike the kind of man that they let us think he was. Because we never got the full story. There is none that showeth, yea, there is none that declareth, yea, there is none that heareth your words. Well, there's nobody declaring to us what Adam lived like. Well, let me run now to the next chapter, Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 9. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. What he's saying here is, I make things plain and clear. I tell you stuff. It seems odd to me that all that happened with Adam is that he tells you the start that he made Adam, and he tells him, eat this, so basically so you don't die, because if you don't eat, you're going to drop. And if you eat the wrong thing, you're still going to drop. And after he does that, then basically the man ate the thing and he basically dropped because judgment came, and he kicked him out. No declaration of the life of the man. How does that give praise to the Creator? The Creator went through all of this stuff, created everything for the man, so that by the time the man got here, everything was ready and made for him and so on. And after all that, he doesn't get to live any life in Scripture, in the Torah, that shows how he was living, that showed that he enjoyed and praised the Creator, and that he really enjoyed the wonders of the creation that the Creator put all this time in making. He doesn't live through it to say, hey, something's wrong with this, or to say, hey, this is awesome, thank the Most High, and so on, to give praise to the Creator and showed how let the Creator see how wonderful it is that the man I made is enjoying what I made. Instead, the Creator gets, pardon me for putting this way, a slap in the face. After all this I made for you, and you're going to eat the one thing I asked you not to eat. How does this Eden story praise the Creator? How? Let's look at Job chapter 12 and verse 8. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. So you're learning just by even considering the creation, but Adam doesn't learn anything from the stars and doesn't want to teach us anything. Nothing. But all kinds of New Age people and all kinds of Kundalini people and all kinds of whatever kind of these people looking, and they're telling you about all this creation and learn and the oneness and the stillness, and you meditate and the this and the that and the energy vibrations from this and that stone and whatever in creation vibrations, and you get all kinds of mysteries and whatever and spiritual power and whatever that can make you rich, make you money, all kinds of stuff. They're learning all this stuff, but Adam, very irresponsible, not trying to pass on anything he learned about what the Creator created or learned from the Creator. (11 to 13). Doth not the ear try words? Well, you're not going to try Adam's words because he didn't tell us anything. And the mouth taste his meat? With the ancient is wisdom. Is it that we just don't have no wisdom from Adam, or he wasn't ancient? Which is it? Because such an ancient man, being the first man, he didn't teach us any wisdom. We just have to learn from his fall. What not to do next time. With the ancient is wisdom, and in length of days understanding. So now if Adam lived for so long, then how much understanding did he die with and didn't pass it on? How much? How much? Adam lived, this is Genesis 5 and verse 5, and all the days of Adam, and all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. You got other people that lived long as well after Adam, and they tried to tell us stuff. They tried to teach us something. But Adam lived 930 years, nearly 1,000 years. And the Bible, the same Torah says, length of days bring understanding. And Torah is so big on teaching and passing on understanding and giving instruction and so on. And if you see your brother doing the wrong thing, you got to speak out and so on, whatever. Try to save him from it, or judgment will be upon you as well, and so on. Torah is big on teaching, teaching, teaching. The Bible even says the knowledge of the Most High will fill the earth. And Adam has length of days kind of understanding and does not teach us anything about the Creator. No wonder the Creator kicked him out. No wonder. Because how come Eve just come on the scene and just start to eat that? You see, the strength and the power of the teaching from Adam directly would have been so strong if he was spending time teaching Eve. She would have twisted up that snake. He took her down by word. You're telling me the power of the teaching from Adam, the first teaching direct. You think anyone could twist up Moses after he got the word directly on Mount Sinai from the Most High? Adam would have had powerful words from the Creator if he was spending time teaching Eve. How come she fell so quickly? Verse 13, with him is wisdom and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. Counsel and understanding. Well, you can't tell that with Adam because he does not give you anything for you to judge from his words. In the end, what he gives you very clearly is that it's the woman's fault. I ate it from her. And he being kicked out of the garden, he has learned nothing about the Creator that lets him say, I know this God. He will have mercy if I just repent and plead. If I just pray to him, I know. He doesn't have any desire to do anything like that. Now look, remember the scripture is saying, I don't remember where it is now, but it says in the end when we're delivered out of this modern day Egypt/Babylon, we're going to sing a new song. Right? When we're delivered, a new song. Now look, in the future, we'll be able to tell after we get delivered just how the deliverance happened. We'll be able to tell our children and so on, and to the point where we'll make a song out of it to praise the Most High. A song is a daily enjoyment that is so sweet it ricochets daily in your soul and you can't stop belching out its words. It is my belief that the fullness of the story of Eden and our origin was hidden from us by expert scribes or later editors. That's what I think. Because something is missing from the story. Adam never wanted to sing any kind of song. Nothing in words he's passing on and so on. The sweetness of the life in Eden doesn't let him want to leave much knowledge of it. Instead, you're getting a supposed Moses as some kind of future third-party person writing about Eden. And he doesn't say Adam said this and that. But some people are saying that Adam made inscriptions and wrote, because if Sumer was set up and running in the life of Adam, because Adam would have still been alive, and they're writing there, why wouldn't Adam have written as well? And so they said that Adam basically wrote his stuff down because writing was there at the time. And Moses got those records from Adam, meaning from Adam's records. That's what some are saying. So you see, At least people, they're putting it together and saying Adam would have written stuff because writing was there in Adam's lifetime. At the time when I told you Adam would have been writing, I never knew that. Because when I started this stuff, I didn't even care about Sumer and all that. And then I realized, wait, but Sumer would have been around, and writing happened before Sumer anyway. And these little kings in their own states and so on that came together to make Sumer, they would have been writing as well. So, and they were there living at the time when Adam was still alive. So why are those kings writing and Adam not writing? Everybody is making progress that comes after Adam. But Adam, the first one to see God with all the mysteries and the strength of the Creator's knowledge, Adam never ever writes, never does, and he can't count on nothing. But he can count enough to tell you, I know day one, I am 900 years old, I am 800 years old, and so on and so forth, until he can be dying and saying, 930 years old, and I'm dying right now. So you see the problem now with him counting, as I said at the start? That if he couldn't count, it's really kind of strange. Because if Moses or whoever else wrote this story a couple thousand years later to tell you about Adam, if Adam never wrote anything down and could not count from the start, which means he was intelligent from day one when he opened his eyes, and he knew it was day one, because of the Creator is counting already day 1, day 2, day 3, and it is good, day 4, day 5, it is good, and on the 7th day he rested. That means Adam would have known as well that this is day 8, and day 9, and day 10, and so on. Adam would have been counting as well, to keep the Creator's Sabbath and to keep the Creator's instructions and so on. And they were doing feasts and so on and sacrifices already in the book of Genesis in Adam's lifetime, because his children were sacrificing, and sacrifices go with certain days done at certain times. So they would have been keeping count of days. And if the Creator made day and marked out the day, marked out the night, he would have been telling Adam that Adam would have known. So Adam would have been counting days, and he would have known, this is my first day alive, this is my second day alive. Adam would have been knowing that and making note of it so Adam could count. If Adam could not count, then tell me as I close, if he could not count and write and document it in some kind of way, then when somebody else figured out how to count and how to write, let's say they figured that out when Adam was 700 years old. I guess I'm just picking a number, right? How would they have known that Adam is 700 years old to document that? And he was 830 years old and he documented that and so on. 900. Why? Because they would have needed to know from Adam, okay, we have figured out how to count now, we figured out how to write. We want to tell, we know how old we are now. And my new baby here, we know how old he is. He's 3 days old. Because now we can count, so I'm writing that down, that he was born 3 days ago. How old are you, Adam, so we can write that down here in Sumer? How old are you, Adam, so we can write that down? If Adam never knew how to count, so he wasn't counting days, how is he going to look back and tell on a calendar which did not exist, supposedly, and go way back in the calendar to tell I was born on such and such a day, that was day 1, my first day alive. So now by counting up the calendar until now, oh, I am 900 years old, I am 700 years old. So that they can write that down. And by the time it gets to his end, they can write, he was 930 years old and he died. See, somebody would have had to know his day 1 and be keeping the count of it to be able to get it written down. That only person who would have been there on day 1 to know was Adam. Nobody else would have known that this was Adam's day 1. So Adam was counting from day 1.